Hello guys, welcome to Study for Civil Services. In this video, we will see NCERT Class 8 Geography Chapter 2. And in the previous videos, we have already covered all the chapters of Class 6 NCERT Geography and all the chapters of Class 7 NCERT Geography. And in the coming days, we are going to cover NCERT from Class 6 to Class 12 for Geography, History, Polity, and Economy. So let's start this chapter second. In this chapter, we'll see about land, soil, water, natural vegetation, and wildlife resources. These resources are very important, and this is the fact that 90% of the world population occupies only 30% of the land area, and the remaining 70% of the land is either is partially populated or uninhabited. So most of the population lives in only a small percent of land, and that is why they are their lives, their way of life, and all those things are different. And this difference is because of the difference in the quality of land, soil, water, natural vegetation, animals, and uses of technology. And also availability of such resources is main reason the places differ from each other. First resource you'll see is land, and land is the most important natural resource because if you see the whole Earth is 100%, then it covers around 30% of the total area of the Earth's surface. Rest 70% is covered by water. And all parts of this small person are not habitable. We have seen this. This is the fact. Do you know? Now, all parts of this small percent are not habitable, and the uneven distribution of population in different parts of the world is mainly due to varied characteristic of land and climate. See, the areas like the rugged topography, steep slopes of mountains, low-lying areas which are susceptible to waterlogging, desert areas, thick forested areas, they are normally sparsely populated or uninhabited. And like plains and river valleys, they offer suitable land for agriculture, and that is why they are densely populated areas of the world like Ganga, Brahmaputra, and Indus. Their plains and other rivers like Tigris and other ancient civilizations, they also developed on the river valleys. Now, if you see the land is used for different purposes, be it agriculture, mining, building or setting up any industry. This is commonly known as land use. And the use of land is determined by various type of factors. First is physical factors like topography, soil, climate, minerals, and availability of water. And the second is human factors like population and technology. They are the importance of land use pattern. This table 2.1, this is showing the land use in selected countries. For example, in India, 57% of the land is used for crop, then 4% for pasture, then 22 or 23% is for forest, and other uses 17%. We will see more detailed classification of land in India because in India land is classified into 9 types, and we'll see all those in higher classes. And if you see Australia, pasture land is 56%. Then in Brazil, highest land is for forest and 66%. Then Japan, 67% land is covered by forest. And if you see whole world, 11% land is for cropland, then 26% for pasture, 31% for forest, and other uses 32%. Ideal land for forest in any country should be 33%. And land can also be divided on the basis of private land or community land. Private land is owned by individuals, where community land is owned by whole community for common uses like collection of water, fruits, nuts, or medical herbs. Lands are also known as common property resources. And people and their demand are ever growing because but the availability of land is limited. The quality of land also differs from place to place. People start encroaching the common lands to build up commercial areas, housing complexes in the urban areas, and also to expand the agricultural land in rural areas. And that is why today the vast changes in land use pattern they reflect in the cultural changes of our society and various types of problems like land degradation, landslides, soil erosion, desertification. They are becoming the major threats of the environment. And also because of the expansion of agriculture and construction activities, land is degraded. So that is why we need to focus on conservation of the land resource because growing population and their growing needs and demands they have led to a large scale destruction of forest cover and arable land, and that is why they have created fear of losing this natural resource. So we need to focus on the degradation of land resources, and we need to adopt the practices like afforestation, reclamation, then regulated use of chemical pesticide and fertilizers, and also we need to have checks on overgrazing. So these are some of the methods used to conserve, and this is some of the basic definition of landslide. Landslides are simply defined as the mass movement of rock, debris, or earth down a slope, and they often take place in conjunction with the earthquakes, floods, and volcanoes. A prolonged spell of rainfall can also cause heavy landslide, and that can block the flow of river for some time. Formation of river blocks can cause havoc to the settlements downstream on its bursting. And also in the hilly terrain, landslides have become a major and widely spread natural disaster, and they often strike life and property and occupy a position of major concern. This is a case study given for the landslide, and this landslide was triggered by intense blasting, and because of blasting, the weak zone of slab collapsed and caused intense damage to the road and nearby villages. And Pengi villages was completely evacuated. So during the event of landslide, the village or any the area was completely needs to be completely evacuated to avoid any possible loss of life. And this is the mitigation mechanism given for the landslides because of advancement in scientific and has empowered us to understand what factors can cause landslide and we can also manage them. So there are some broad mitigation techniques of landslides are first one is hazard mapping. We can locate areas prone to landslide and that is why we can such areas can be avoided for building settlements. Then second is we can construct retention wall to stop land from slipping. Then we can also increase in vegetation cover and this is an effective way of arresting the landslide. Then fourth is the surface drainage control works are implemented to control the movements of landslides along with rainwater and spring flows. Now we'll see about the soil. See, the thin layer of grainy substance covering the surface of the earth is called soil and it is closely linked to the land. And that is why land forms actually determine the type of soil. And soil is made up of various things like organic matter, minerals, and weathered rock, which are found on earth. and it formed through the process of weathering. And weathering is the breaking up of and the decay of exposed rock by temperature changes, frost action, plants, animals, and man. And the right mix of minerals and organic matter make the soil fertile. This is the 2.3 is the figure of the soil profile. So there are various type of layers of soil. First, green layer is top layer with humus and vegetation, and then below that, second layer is subsoil with sand, silt, and clay. Then comes the weathered rock material, and then comes the parent rock. And it takes about hundreds of years to make just 1 centimeter of soil. So you can imagine that if we erode the soil, then it would be very difficult for us to regrow the soil, to reclaim that soil. There are various factors of soil formation. Like the major factors of soil formation are the nature of the parent rock and climate factors. And other factors are topography, role of organic material, and also time taken for the composition of the. And all these factors differ from place to place. This is the diagram showing the factors affecting the soil formation. Major factor like first is parent rock. It determines color, texture, chemical properties, mineral content, and permeability. Then relief, it determines altitude and slope, determine accumulation of soil. Then flora, fauna, and microorganism, it affect the rate of humus formation. Then climate is the most important factor for soil formation. Temperature, rainfall, and rate of weathering and humus. Then time is also the important factor because it determines thickness of soil profile. And in India, various types of soil are formed like alluvial, black, red, laterite, desert, and mountain soil. We have made a video regarding the soils found in India. You can see that. Then degradation of soil and conservation measures. See, soil erosion and soil depletion are major threats to soil as a resource, and both human and natural factors can lead to degradation of soils. And the factors which lead to soil degradation are deforestation. So these are some of the factors which lead to soil degradation. First is deforestation, then overgrazing, then overuse of chemical fertilizer as or first is pesticide, rainwash also, then landslide and floods. Now we'll see some of the methods of soil conservation. First is mulching. In this method, bare ground between the plants is covered with a layer of organic matter like straw or some grass, and it helps to retain soil moisture. Then second is contour barriers. Various type of stones, grass, and soils are used to build barriers along the contours. And also trenches are made in front of the barriers to collect water. Then rock dam is also a method to conserve soil. Rocks are piled up to slow down the flow of water that prevent gullies and further soil loss. Then on the hilly areas, we adopt practices like terrace farming. See, terraces are made on the steep slopes, and that so that flat surfaces are available to grow crops, and water speed could be reduced, and these they can reduce surface runoff and soil erosion. This 2.5 figure is showing terrace farming. Then intercropping, different types of crops are grown in alternate rows and are sown at different times to protect the soil from rainwater. Then contour plugging. In this, plugging parallel to the contours of a hill slope to form a natural barrier for water to flow down the slope. It is given in the figure 2.6. And shelterless, it actually applies in the coastal and dry regions because and in this area rows of trees are planted to check the wind movements to protect the soil cover. So these are some of the methods of soil conservation: mulching, contour barriers, rock dam, terrace farming, intercropping, contour plugging, and shelter belts. And This figure is showing that if we grow the crop or if we grow the forest in any area, then the water retention capacity will be high. See in the figure A, there is no soil or no crop or no flora, and that is why most of the water degraded the soil. And in the B figure, various type of crops or flora grown in the soil, and that is why the soil water collected in the beaker, the soil erosion or soil depletion is very less. Now see about water. Water is a very vital renewable natural resource. Three-fourths of the Earth's surface is covered with water. Around 70% of the Earth's surface is covered with water, and that is why Earth is known as but water planet or blue planet. And it was in the very primitive oceans that life began almost 3.5 billion years back. Earth life was around 4.5 billion years, and the life on Earth begins about 3.5 billion years back. Today, the ocean covers two-thirds of the Earth's surface and supports a rich variety of plants and animals' life. Very saline, and it is not fit for human consumption. And ocean covers around 98%, 97.2% around. So the fresh water only counts for 2.7%, but out of this 2.7% also, nearly 70% of nearly 70% is occurred as ice sheets and glaciers in Antarctica, Greenland, and mountain region. And because of their location, they are very far from the actual land where the people live. That is why they are inaccessible, and only 1% of the fresh water is available and fit for human use. And it is used in forms groundwater, surface water in rivers and lakes, and as water vapor up the atmosphere. And fresh water is the most precious substance on the earth, and water added or not subtracted from the earth, and its total volume remains constant. Its abundance only seems to vary because it is in the constant motion, and various types of motion of the water are in the ocean are like tides and then waves, upwelling, downwelling. We have already seen in the previous chapters. And in the environment occurs a water cycle, cycling through the oceans, the air, land, and then back again, and then through the processes of evaporation, precipitation, and runoff. And we have already explained the water cycle in the previous chapters. And this is a fact that in 1975, the consumption of water for human use was around 3850 cubic kilometer per year, but it soared to more than 6,000 cubic kilometer per year in the year 2000. And human uses water for drinking, washing, and other purposes like agriculture and generating electricities through reservoirs of dams are also the other uses. And various type of threats like increasing population, rising demands for food and cash crops, and increasing urbanization, and rising in standards of living are the major factors that are leading the shortage of fresh water, either due to drying up of water resources or water pollution. And that is why the problems of water availability, the scarcity of water in occurred in various type regions of the world. Most of the Africa, West Asia, South Asia, and parts of Western USA, Northwest Mexico, parts of South America, and entire Australia are facing shortages in fresh water supply. And countries located in climate zones are more susceptible to droughts, face great problems of water scarcity, and thus water shortage may be a consequence of a seasonal or annual precipitation, or the scarcity is caused by overexploitation and contamination of water sources. And this is the fact that even water is these days water market exists like Amreli city in Saurashtra region with a population of 1.2 lakh is completely dependent on purchasing water from the nearby talukas. And we need to focus on conservation of water resources because access to clean and adequate water sources is a major problems that is facing today, and its steps needs to be taken to conserve this dwindling resource. Even the water is a renewable resource, but its overuse and pollution. So these are the two problems because we are using it and we are using it undiscriminately, and we are also polluting it, and that is why it becomes unfit for the use, and discharge of partially treated sewage and agricultural chemicals and industrial effluents in water bodies are the major contaminants, and they pollute the water with nitrates, metal, and pesticides. And this figure is given for the Yamuna, and Yamuna is getting polluted because of the sewage, industrial effluents, and sewage. And most of the these chemicals which are poured in the water are non-biodegradable, and they reach human bodies through water. And water pollution can be controlled by treating these effluents suitably before releasing them in the water bodies. And various type of techniques can be used for water conservation, like forest and vegetation. They their covers slow the surface runoff and replenish underground water. Then water harvesting is another method to save surface runoff. Then water is also because water is also used for irrigating fields. The canals should be properly linked to minimize losses of water seepage. Then sprinkle and drip irrigation can also be used to check water loss through seepage and evaporation. And in dry areas, because high rates of evaporation are present, so drip or trickled irrigation is very useful in dry areas, and the valuable water resource can therefore be conserved by adopting these means of conservation. And this is the most important thing, that rainwater harvesting is the best method to conserve rainwater, and it is the process of collecting rainwater from rooftops and directing it to an appropriate location and storing it for further use. And on an average, one is spent for around 2 hours is enough to save 8,000 liters of water. Now we'll see about natural vegetation and wildlife. And natural vegetation means the vegetation which grows on their own without any help of humans. And natural vegetation and wildlife exist only in the narrow zone of contact between the lithosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere. And this zone is known as biosphere. And in biosphere, living beings are interrelated and interdependent on each other for survival. And this life supporting system is known as ecosystem. Vegetation and wildlife are valuable resources, and plants provide us various things like timber, shelter to animals, oxygen. They produce oxygen, what we breathe. Then they protect soils, so are essential for growing crops and act as shelters and also help in storage of underground water, gives us fruits and turpentine oil, gum, medicinal plants, and also the paper that is very essential for our studies. And there are innumerable uses of plants also. And wildlife, they include animals, birds, insects, as well as aquatic life forms. They also provide us various things. And there are some vultures, also some the birds actually feed on insect and act as decomposers. And vultures, because of its ability to feed on dead is livestock, it is an scavenger and consequential cleanser of the environment. So every bird or every living being in the important, and they have a particular role. And so animals like big or small all are integral to maintaining the balance in the atmosphere or ecosystem. And vultures in Indian subcontinent are dying because of the kidney failure shortly after scavenging livestock, because cattle, they are treated with the diclofenac, and then vultures feed on the dead cattle, and that is why they are suffering kidney failure and they are dying, because diclofenac, it is a painkiller that is given to the cattle, and it is very similar to aspirin or ibuprofen, and that is why various efforts are on to ban the drug for livestock use and breed vultures in the captivity. And if you see distribution of natural vegetation, the growth of vegetation depends primarily on major two factors. First is temperature, and the second is moisture. And major vegetation types of the world are grouped as forest, grasslands, scrubs, and tundra. In areas of heavy rainfall, huge trees may thrive, and forests are thus associated with areas having abundant water supplies. We have already explained the forest, the grasslands, and the thorny brushes in the previous chapters. You can see that, and we can see that as the amount of moisture decreases, the size of trees and their density reduces, and in the regions of moderate to low rainfall, short stunted trees and grasses grow, and that is why they are forming the grassland of the world. And in very dry areas of very low rainfall, thorny bushes, shrubs, and scrubs they grow, and in such area very leaves have thorny and waxy surface to reduce the loss of moisture or to conserve the water by transpiration. And tundra vegetation of cold polar regions, they comprise of mosses and lichens. And if you see about forests, they are broadly classified as evergreen or deciduous, and depending on whether they shed their leaves in any particular season or they don't shed their leaf at all, because evergreen forests, they do not shed their leaves in any season of the year, and that is why they always look green. But deciduous forests shed their leaf in a particular season to conserve loss of moisture through transpiration, and these forests are further classified as tropical or temperate based on their location in different latitudes. And because the population is growing today, so we need large number of food, and that is why large number of forest is converted into agricultural land, and forest cover all over the world is vanishing rapidly, and there is an urgent need to conserve this valuable resource. And now some of natural vegetation and wildlife, because forests are our health, wealth, and plants give shelter to the animals, and together they maintain the ecosystem. So changes of climate and human interference can cause the loss of natural habitats for the animals and plants, and many species have become vulnerable and endangered, and some species are also on the verge of extinction. And the factors for these are deforestation, soil erosion, construction activities, then forest fires, tsunami, and landslides. These are some of the factors, either human-made or natural factors, and that is they are together accelerating the process of extinction of these great natural resources. And one of the major concerns these days is increasing incident of poaching, and this resulted in the sharp decline in the nature of particular species, and the animals are poached for their collection, and illegal trade of hides, skins, nails, teeth, horns, as well as feathers. And some of these animals are tiger, lion, elephant, deer, black buck, crocodile, rhinoceros, snow leopard, ostrich, and peacock. And to be conserved by increasing awareness. These are some of the things like forest fires. There are three reasons of forest fire. Forest fire is actually a threat to entire region of fauna and flora, and it occurs mainly due to three reasons. First is natural fire due to lightning, then fire due to heat generated in the litter due to carelessness of people, and third reason is purposely caused fire by the local inhabitants. And there are some control measures to for the forest fire. First is prevention of human caused fires through education, then prompt detection of fires through well coordinated network of observation points, efficient ground patrolling and communication network. And government has taken various steps like they've created national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, biosphere reserves to protect our natural vegetation and wildlife. And conservation of creeks, lakes, and wetland is very necessary to save the precious resource from depletion. And there is a balance in the environment. And relative, if the relative number of species is not disturbed, then we need to maintain that balance. And the human activities in several parts of world are actually disturbing the natural habitats of many species because of indiscriminate killing. Several birds and animals have either become extinct or are on the verge of extinction, and various awareness programs even more so should be encouraged at the regional and community level. And the school children should also be encouraged for bird watching and visiting the nature campus so that they can appreciate the habitats of various species. And many countries have actually passed the laws declaring that the trades as well as killings of the birds and animals are illegal. And in India also, killings of lions, tigers, deers, great Indian bustards, and peacocks are have been banned. And there is an international convention sites has been established that lists several species of animals and birds in which trade is prohibited, and conservation of plants and animals, it should be an ethical duty of every citizen. This is glossary that national park is actually a natural area designated to protect the ecological integrity of one or more ecosystems for present and future generations. And second is Biosphere Reserve. This is a series of protected areas linked through a global network, and it intended to demonstrate the relation between conservation and development. See, there is a difference between the natural park, wildlife sanctuary, and biosphere reserve. We have made a video. You can see that, and this is the thing that cites the full form is the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. So, CITES is an international agreement between the governments of various countries, and it aims to ensure that international trade in specimens of wild animals and plants does not threaten their survival. And various types of species are actually extincted, and various types are listed as endangered also. Now we'll see the exercises. What are the two main climatic factors responsible for soil formation? This question is asking about climatic factors, and the two main climatic factors are temperature and moisture. Then write any two reasons for land degradation. There are various reasons like we are cutting the forest for the urbanization, then we are polluting land, then we are polluting the soil, and soil erosion is caused. And there are various factors because of the expansion of agriculture, and because of the increasing urbanization, because of the deforestations, And why is land considered an important resource? Land is considered an important resource because forests exist on the land and they are the important resources for timber and various other fruits and vegetables. And we can also do the cropping and agriculture only on the land. And we can make buildings on the land. We can make industries on the land only. Now, two steps that government has taken to conserve plants and various steps like the establishment of natural national park and then wildlife sanctuaries and then biosphere reserves, then various programs like One Mahotsav. Three ways to conserve water: rainwater harvesting, treating water in the river, uh, and then various type of philosophies like reduce, reuse, and we can also do adopt various type of soil conservation methods, and we can do water conservation. And the most important method is rainwater harvesting. And there is also a program by the government of India is watershed management. So there are various type of ways to conserve water. Then the correct answer. Soil texture is actually not a factor of soil formation. So B is the answer. Then most appropriate method to check soil erosion on steep slopes is the terrace cultivation, because in this terrace cultivation we make the terraces along the slope so that the speed of water is reduced. Then which one of the following is not favor of conservation of nature? C. Dispose polyphex are favor of conservation of nature. Then match the following continuous means the productive use of land. Humus is organic deposit on topsoil. Then rock dams, they prevent soil erosion. Arable land means landslide. True or false? Ganga Brahmaputra plain of India is an overpopulated region. True. Water availability per person in India is high in this chapter. This is true. The rows of trees planted in coastal areas to check wind movement is called because it is called shelter belts, and it is a very effective method to conserve soil in the coastal interference and changes of climate can maintain the ecosystem. This is false. So this is the end of the chapter. We will cover 6 to 12 for geography, history, and history. Please like, share, and subscribe our channel for more updates.